Hello everyone, welcome to the course on simulating fluid flows using Python. First of all, I really have to apologize that I have been busy with my semester which has recently started, and that is why I'm not able to upload these videos that frequently as I had planned. So there would be a sort of announcement come question for you guys towards the end of this video. So I would be needing your advice on something, so please hang out until the end. But for the lecture today, we are going to take things one step further. In the last lecture, we started looking at the 2D convection diffusion using the central differencing method. And now we want to understand how to use the upwind scheme in 2 dimensions. So we would revisit the convection diffusion problem as to how it was discretized. And then we would use the upwind scheme formulation in that, and we would take the example of the same numerical problem that we have been looking at, and we'll also look at the Python script. So because there won't be a huge change in terms of the coding part, so we would be covering both the theoretical formulation as well as the numerical and coding based implementation of that. The last part of this lecture would be towards what is called as a false diffusion. So if you had remembered vaguely, I had used this term somewhere around 3 or 4 lectures ago, and I hadn't introduced it at that time because it is only relevant now when we are talking of multi-dimensional problems. So this is where it would be relevant, and we would be talking about what it is and why it is being caused and what might be the implications of that. So I hope that you'd like the lecture. So without wasting any further time, let's get into it. So let us start by first looking at a very brief recap of the 2D convection diffusion, governing equations and the grids, etc. So let us say if we have a variable of interest phi, and if the variable is along in a flow field which exhibit both the convection and diffusion properties, we can write the governing equation in this particular form for a Cartesian system where x and y are the independent spatial coordinates. So if we have such a system, then we saw that we can define a grid like this for any domain that is 2D in shape or nature. So here these red points are what are called as the boundary points, and these blue points are my interior grid points. And for any general point of interest P, we can define a finite volume around it, and based on that we would have a east face, a west face, a north face and a south face. So I hope that you would be familiar with all this kind of terminologies now, and the idea from here onwards is that we use the Gauss divergence theorem on that finite volume and integrate the governing equation on that. So we will not be talking a lot in details here. The reason is that we have covered all these details previously when we discussed about 1D system and also when we discussed the 2D central differencing. So just to briefly recapitulate, if I isolate my finite volume around my point of interest P, then after integrating all the terms, that are the 2 terms on the left hand side, that are the convection terms on that volume, the volume integral is represented by the single integral rather than 3 separate integrals. And when we integrate that and use the Gauss divergence theorem, we can convert these volume integrals into the area or surface integrals by introduction of a outward unit normal vector. And we have seen that, for example, if we are considering the face E, this east face over here, then we are only interested in the x component. The reason is that the outward unit normal is protruding in the x direction. And for the same reason, for when we consider this particular term where we have the contribution from v velocity, then we are considering this north face, and then the normal vector is protruding in the vertical upwards direction. And when we do this analysis on all the terms, we see that every integral would produce 2 terms of this particular form, whereas the gradient terms can be rewritten by removing this. When you multiply this normal vector or dot product this normal vector with this term inside the brackets, then it would come as it is, and we would have an area term coming up because of this area factor over here. So I hope that this is all something that we have discussed before. The real story of the discretization scheme or the numerical scheme starts at this point, because so far we have been taking our analysis to be exactly perfect or exactly theoretical. There are no assumptions as such, but in order to proceed from here, we need some sort of assumptions. So in order to do that, in order to use the upwind scheme, let us quickly recap about what we were doing in the upwind scheme when we look at the 1D scenario. So in one dimension, if we have a finite volume like this, and if we have the neighboring points like this, then we said that this particular east face, the phi at the east face, it would be exactly equal to phi p if the u velocity is greater than 0. That is, if the flow is going from left to right, then the variable phi at this east face, it would be the same as the upstream variable, that is phi p. And similarly, phi w would have the upwind variable called as phi at capital W. So any particular quantity at the face, it would be the same as that of the upstream value or the upwind value, and that is where the scheme derives its name from. We would extend the same idea in 2D. So you can think of two mutually perpendicular directions, x and y, where the velocities are u and v, and we can consider them separately. So if we have this particular equation written on the top, that is without any assumptions, and in order to simplify it, because we have this ue, uw, vn and vs kind of terms, then in order to simplify that, again, if I think of a flow that is going in the positive y direction, or when v is greater than 0, then phi at this small n, that is the north face, if I'm standing here, then my upstream direction is, or the upstream node point is this p. So the phi small n would be the same as phi capital P, because that is what is upstream to the north face. And similarly, if I'm standing here with a positive y direction flow, then again the upwind variable would be taken from this south point or the south grid point. So that is how we can define any particular variable phi that are appearing in these four equations, and we can substitute them for the convection term. So this is important, that this is only meaningful for the convection term, because if you remember, we are not doing anything for the diffusion term. So when we looked at the 1D system, the diffusion terms are still taken to be piecewise linearly approximated profile. So the right hand side, again here you would use the piecewise linear profile. So for example, if you want to evaluate d phi over dy evaluated at the north face, so it would simply be phi n minus phi p divided by the grid spacing over here. So it's very simple. You can assume a straight line between any 2 points and then evaluate the gradient or the derivative depending on which direction you are looking at. So the right hand sides are evaluated from this piecewise linear approximation, whereas the left hand side, which is the convective terms, they are being evaluated from the upwinding scheme formulation. So when we combine these two, the whole formulation is said to be based on a upwind scheme. All right, so this is what you see when you, for example, if you're using any kind of software and they are saying that what kind of scheme do you want to use to evaluate the advection term or the convection term, and then in the drop down menu you might see first order upwind or second order upwind. So that is what we are actually trying to do there. So this is how you would proceed from here. I'm not going to simplify it further, but I would give you the final expression that would come out. So when you would put all these terms together, the discretized equation that we would get, and I would ask you to revisit the one dimension upwind scheme lecture if you are struggling to get the final form. So the final form can always be expressed in this AP phi p equals to AE phi E plus AW phi W plus AN phi N plus AS phi S form. And here, if you remember from the 1D system, in 1D case we have AW and AE that were appearing in this form. And taking the inspiration from here, you can similarly write for AS and AN. So remember, AE is the forward point that is lying in the positive direction, and AW was the point lying in the negative direction with respect to P. And similarly, if I am looking at the vertical direction, then AS is the negative point and AN is the forward or the positive point, and that is why you can have this kind of comparison between the two. And to lead this further, if you have a 3D system, then the point on the top and the point on the bottom can be treated in the same way. That is, the bottom point would look similar to the south and the west point, and the top point, it would look similar to the east and the north point. So that is a kind of trick that you might use if you want to extend your formulation from 1D to 2D to further into 3D. So I hope that this discretization is clear. If it's not, please just try to derive it on your own. It's not very difficult, and you can also refer to the textbooks that are provided in the description of this video. So they are also available, I think, in the PDF form somewhere, which I'm sure you guys would be able to find out as well. So now let us look at the problem that we want to solve through this particular formulation. So the problem that we were looking at was this problem of a 2D system, where the temperature of the two walls that were maintained at 1 units, and the temperature of the two other walls, it was maintained at 0. And we had imposed a flow field of 1 meter per second in horizontal and 1 meter per second in the vertical direction. So I'll switch to the code now, and the reason is because the coding is actually very similar to what we had done for the two-dimensional convection diffusion problem. So this is exactly the same code that I have copied and pasted from there. The only difference is that I've slightly changed the appearance of these 4 lines here. So I have used the formulation that we have just derived. I have used the max function that takes care of the fact that these coefficients should always be positive. And quickly, if I have to go back, the coefficients have to be positive, otherwise the solution may become unstable or unbounded, which we have seen in the case of central differencing, that if the Piclet number, it goes beyond a certain limit, then the solution doesn't really come out nicely. You can try that in the code that we discussed in the last lecture. You can try increasing the velocity component. You can change it from 1 to 100, and you will see that the solution would just crash. So that is the problem that we don't face with upwind scheme. So let us first look at the code that I have here, and then we'll gradually ramp up the velocity and see if the code crashes or not. So I'll hit a Control L here so that we have a nice and clean window. So here my grid points are 21, so that the solution comes out a little faster, and the velocity for now is 2 meter per second, and everything else has been just selected randomly. I don't have any particular reasoning for that, but the important parameter of our interest is the Piclet number, the dimensionless Piclet number. So now for this particular case, the Piclet number is 0.02, which is a very small Piclet number, and it gives out some solution to us. Now, in order to raise the Piclet number, what we can do is we can just ramp up the velocity to 100 times further. That would give me a Piclet number of 2, and you would see that you should see the plots would coming up. So the plots have come up now. I should have actually closed it before showing it to you. So now if the Piclet number is 2, then the solution is like this. And if you increase the Piclet number further, you would see that it's not a problem with the upwind scheme. So the Piclet number is 20, and we are still getting some solution. The important thing is that the code is not crashing. The numerical scheme is stable and bounded, but it is first order, and we would very shortly see that it suffers from this problem of false diffusion. So let me theoretically tell you what is this false diffusion, and then we'll look into the coding aspect. So if we go back to the presentation over here, so false diffusion is actually a special case where the diffusion is absent. So you still think about a convection diffusion problem at first, and you think that you're slightly reducing the diffusion, and there would come a point where the diffusion would be absent. And numerically, the way to implement is that you put the gamma as 0. So the problem simply becomes of a convection problem. So now we are wanting to solve a convection problem using this upwinding scheme. So physically, this particular situation implies that because there is no diffusion, so there should be a fact that the properties should not diffuse. So if, let us say, if you have temperature in the flow field, it should not diffuse. And what I mean by diffuse it, if I have to put it very bluntly, that things would not mix up with each other. So let us say if you have 10 degrees here, 20 degrees here, and if there are no diffusion processes, then this would remain as it is. It wouldn't happen that the temperature would gradually become uniform, because that happens because of diffusion. So there is no diffusion, so no mixing up. So now we want to see whether the numerical scheme is actually able to capture it or not. And if a numerical scheme results in a solution that suggests diffusion, then we say that the numerical scheme exhibits false diffusion. So let us say we put 10 degrees, 20 degrees here. We used a numerical scheme and it said that the temperature here is 10, here is 20, and here is something else. Let us say 15. So it means that these two properties have mixed up over here, which shouldn't have happened if there is no diffusion in the physical process. So we would say that the numerical scheme that we have used to solve this particular problem, it exhibits false diffusion, because there was no diffusion, but the scheme is saying that there is diffusion, and that is why the word false. So let us see if the upwind scheme actually shows it or not. So what we would do is we would simply turn the gamma to 0. So in order to do that, the idea is very simple. We simply take this value here, put it to 0. I'll clean up the command window here, we'll close the figures. So now the idea is that the temperature should not diffuse. So let us see if that is the case. So the first important thing is that the Piclet number would be infinity, and the reason is because the gamma is equals to 0. And if we look at the profile, the temperature profile, so in these regions here the temperature is 1, here the temperature is 0, but it still exhibits this band of temperatures between 0 and 1. So if there is this band of temperature, that suggests that there had been some fluid mixing, then that implies that this particular scheme is prone to false diffusion. And this is important because, for example, in 2D or 3D cases, there might be the case where there is no diffusion, but if we use these kind of schemes, they might tell the story that there would be some diffusion, and because of that the variables of our interest, for example the heat transfer or the temperature distribution, it could be incorrectly calculated. So I hope that I would be able to convince you that this is not a desirable property for a numerical scheme. So this was all about upwind scheme that I think was relevant for this class and for this discussion. And the fact that I was holding you until this point regarding some sort of announcement was because I've been feeling that I'm not very regular for these members only videos. My question to you would be, is it all right with you members if I continue this particular series, but rather than as a member, everybody would have the access to it? And the reason is because I'm not able to devote that much time and especially that much consistency in order to deliver these videos. So I'm thinking it's not fair on your end to continue this series where maybe I'm uploading once every week or once every 2 weeks. So I would still keep the content so far members only, so that people who want to access this content have to be a members of this channel and they can access it, but it's not available to everybody else. So this content would still be members only, but the content from now onwards, I would want to know your feedback on, are you okay with having the content from now onwards accessible to everyone, or if you have another views, please let me know in the comments to this video. Until the next video, where we would see whether that would be a members only video or for everybody else, I'll see you in the next one, but please take care of yourself.